Hey, my third grade mathematicians. Well, I'm really excited for today because this is one of my favorite activities with fractions. So before we get started, we're going to review our math focus points. So today we're going to be working on generating and identifying equivalent fractions. So we've seen some of that so far with our brownies and our fraction sets, but we're going to see more of that today with today's activity. We're going to continue to use representatives to visualize how fractions relate to each other and are parts of a whole. So today we're going to go beyond rectangles and we're going to use a different shape for our size whole. And then today we're also going to be using equations to represent how fractions are related to each other and to the whole. Okay? So, like I mentioned, we've been using rectangles and brownies and fraction sets to represent wholes, but one whole could be any shape or size. So we're going to use something that's familiar to us with our pattern blocks. We're going to use the hexagon as our whole, okay? We're going to see how we can make this hexagon, or we'll call it hexagon cookies, how we can make this cookie in different ways with other pattern blocks using fractions, okay? So I'll have the blocks here, but I'm going to go over to our virtual pattern blocks so you can see better here. All right, so we're going to use the hexagon as our whole, and I want you to take a minute and think about how many red trapezoids we could use to make one whole hexagon cookie. Okay, so if I move this hexagon, or this trapezoid here, onto our hexagon, I have 1, 2. That completely covers the hexagon, and we know that sometimes technology isn't perfect, like it just flipped that trapezoid upside down here. Let's see if it'll stay. Well, there we go. We can turn it. All right. So we have no gaps or overlaps, but we know sometimes technology may show that, but it still covers it. So right here I have my hexagon cookie and pattern block and 2 red trapezoids. Okay. All right, so keep that in mind, and then we're going to talk about what fractional piece is the trapezoid. Okay. All right, what about the blue rhombus? How many blue rhombuses do you need to cover the hexagon cookie? Well, let's see here. We've got 1, 2, and again, sometimes it'll show gaps, but that's not really there. All right, and let's see if this third one will cover it. Yes. All right, so 3 rhombuses cover the hexagon cookie. Okay, so again, I'll show you on my pattern block as best I can. Okay, so I can see that there's 3 rhombuses that cover one whole hexagon cookie. Okay, all right, what about the triangles? How many green triangles do you think we will need to cover the whole hexagon? Okay, so let's try here. There's 1. No, it just wants to turn 2. And again, technology is a wonderful thing, but it still may show the gaps that aren't actually there. 3. So at this point, how many green triangles do you think we'll need? Okay, I'm thinking we need 3 more, but let's see. Okay. Whoops. Okay, so there's 4, 6. And again, I know it shows some gaps and overlaps, but it's not letting me turn it perfectly. So we need 6 green triangles to fill the hexagon. Okay, so let's think of these pieces as parts of the cookie, as fractional pieces of the cookie. Okay, so thinking about the trapezoid, we said how many trapezoids would fill a hexagon cookie? Do you remember? How many trapezoids? You're right, 2. So 1 trapezoid would be what fractional piece of the hexagon? What fraction is the trapezoid of the hexagon? Okay, so we have 1 trapezoid out of 2 that would make 1 whole. So your fractional piece or your trapezoid would be 1/2 of the whole cookie. Okay, so 1 trapezoid would be 1 out of 2 trapezoids that would make 1 whole hexagon cookie. Okay, what about the rhombus? What fractional piece is 1 rhombus? Well, we said we needed 3 to make 1 whole hexagon. So what fractional piece is 1 rhombus? So if we're talking about 1 piece, 1 part, over the 3 parts needed to make 1 whole. So 1/3. This is 1 out of the 3 rhombuses that we would need to make 1 whole hexagon. Okay? All right, what about the triangle? How many triangles did we need to make 1 whole hexagon cookie? Well, we need 6. So 1 triangle would be 1 out of 6 fractional pieces. We have 1/6. 1 triangle is 1/6 of the whole hexagon cookie. Okay, so the trapezoid is 1/2 of a whole hexagon cookie. The rhombus is 1/3 of a whole hexagon cookie, and the triangle is 1/6 of a whole hexagon cookie. Now, what you are going to do is you are going to have a whole page of hexagon cookies, and they represent 1 whole. And your task is to find as many different combinations as you can of red, blue, and green pattern blocks that will cover a whole yellow hexagon cookie exactly. You can combine a few different shapes to cover a hexagon cookie, or you can cover a hexagon cookie with just one kind of shape. While you're working, check to make sure each of your solutions are different, okay? So while you are going through and you're finding the different combinations, make sure you label the fractional piece. So, for instance, if I were going to just use trapezoids, I would have 2 trapezoids, my pattern blocks, and I would label each trapezoid 1/2. Okay, if I were going to use different shapes, different pattern shapes, okay, let's say I put a trapezoid and that's 1/2, and then I used a green triangle and a blue rhombus. I know the green triangle is 1/6 and the blue rhombus is 1/3. Okay, that's going to help us later when we look at the hexagons together and write equations. Okay, so have fun making hexagon cookies and use your pattern blocks to and fractional pieces to create different solutions. Alright guys, I'll catch you in the next video.